This is Share the Vision, presented by the Resource Center, a discussion of the programs and services of the Resource Center and about issues related to individuals with disabilities. Today, it's Greg Peterson night at the ballpark. As I speak to you, it's just after 6:30 p.m. on Monday, August 19th, 2013. We are waiting for the Jamestown Jammers Auburn Doubledays baseball game to get underway in about a half an hour. The Resource Center Board of Directors is meeting right behind my left shoulder here, but I'm seated with the man for whom this night is named, Greg Peterson, ESQ. Hello, Greg.
Hello, Dennis. Thank you. This is a great night. And by the way, Jammers, unlike other nights when we've had an opportunity to talk, are tied for first place. And this is, at this late in the season, it's a wonderful thing.
You know, I've had John Pogorzelski of the Jammers agree to come on this program in just a few minutes and talk about what it's like to be the sales and operations manager for a hot team like this. But it certainly got you and the fans excited.
Absolutely. You know, it's the new affiliation with the Pittsburgh Pirates has infused a new sense of immediacy, a new sense of let's win. Let's not treat this simply as a development league. And it's very exciting to watch it. The players are very exciting. They bunt. There's sacrifices. There's stealing. There's just a lot of small ball, if I can use that term. But it's very exciting.
The Greg Peterson night at the ballpark. Give us a little bit of the history of how this has come to be, your relationship with the Jammers, the Resource Center, and how this comes together one night every year, Greg.
Well, we felt it was very important. Really, this goes back many, many years when the Expos were affiliated with the Jamestown team, and they permitted us to sell season tickets on their behalf, of which a significant part benefited the Resource Center. And through that relationship, it led to an ongoing participation down here at the ballpark with the ball players. We actually got featured on ESPN, which still is being played periodically, and it just had a long-standing relationship. So when I was active and on the board, we would at least one night a year have our board meeting here, which preceded the game, and then hang around and have a Resource Center night. And then when I termed out a few years ago, they decided to continue that tradition. And looking for a name, there was a void, so they just used my name and for this particular night. So I'm really thrilled that they've continued the tradition, certainly.
Your interest, your contribution, your work toward keeping baseball in Jamestown, Greg, you're committed to this.
I think it's critical for our community to be able to say that we are one of 150 or 60 communities throughout the country which have professional baseball. That's an incredible statement. And we've had baseball for a long, long period of time. And I think for economic development purposes, for community pride purposes, and just for personal purposes, to be able to say you are seeing today the stars of tomorrow. And then go on and to recite some of the folks who played here. Cooperstown's Nellie Fox, Gary Carter, Randy Johnson, Andres Galarraga, Jim Leland for the Detroit Tigers manager, all were part of this world. And then when you start digging down deeper, it's amazing, the number. So we look out here today, and the names may not be household names today, but if you pick up your scorecard, salt it away for 5 years, look at it again, you'd say, oh my gosh, I had no idea who I saw here. And that's a real source of community pride, and you hear that in and around that so-and-so started here.
You have a great commitment to bringing young ball players with ability to this field. You also have, through your life and career here in Jamestown, had a great commitment to people with disabilities in your work at the Resource Center. Let's highlight that for a moment and why you have been so passionate about that.
I started when I came back from law school. My mentor and boss, Sherry Cadwell, was involved as one of the initial incorporators of what we now know as the Resource Center. And he suggested that I would get involved, and I met the staff, and I saw the commitment of the staff dealing with some very difficult situations, but with a smile on their face and ultimately viewing and seeing the tremendous return on their time investment, in addition to the financial investment. And after a while, when you see that, you can't help but smile and say that this is time and talent well spent to enhance the life of folks who are otherwise, been unfortunate. And from family members to volunteers, frankly, it's a great sense of pride that I look today at events, the Gus Mackers, the golf tournaments, the various acceptance of this program that's being conducted by the Resource Center. It's a real, frankly, it's a tip of the hat to the community, and I'm just glad to be part of that during that almost 40 years now.
And it's interesting because Greg, Paul Chisana, the executive director at the Resource Center, has spoken to me virtually every time we've talked this year about that community commitment and his sense of how it will need to grow, because they are working with, trying to cope with new funding models that are changing their world a great deal. And so that community involvement may need, from what Paul tells me, to be enhanced even more in the years to come in order to sustain the services that the Resource Center has traditionally provided.
Collaboration, acceptance, awareness, which is what your program has done for so many years, Dennis. I tip my hat to you. And I'm not going to blow you up with a glory gun, but Dennis, what you've done, certainly generally in the community, but specifically with this program that you have, gives a whole sense of community awareness of the economic impact, the personal impact of an operation which, I must tell you, at the beginning was not well received or unaccepted or understood. And you've done much to do that. Having said that, much more needs to be done to fully understand the impact. And this is an economic development impact in addition to the personal impact. I mean, this is an amazing operation, and the more people understand it, the more you want to spend your time and talents in so. So, what you're doing, what they try to do in other areas are incredibly important to the success of this. And yes, there's challenges, budgetary challenges, which all not-for-profits deal with, but this one specifically, and they're very creative, and they're really working very hard to fill that financial as well as void in the community. But they got a good product to sell.
I was going to develop a parallel theme here, Greg, in the sense that in some ways minor league baseball in Jamestown is challenged these days too. They're getting ready to hammer nails into a stadium in Morgantown, West Virginia, which has got everybody a little shaky, who, as Jamestown does, has one of the smaller franchises, one of the smaller audience bases for A-level baseball. So the community is needed in another way to sustain what happens on this field.
I don't think there's any question that we're blessed to have terrific owners. These are the Rich Products, who are terrifically community-minded, and they've been very, very important to our success and continuation down here. The reality is we are in a small market, and there, as I mentioned, we're 150, 160 in a community of having professional baseball, when in fact there's 300-400 communities much larger than ours with facilities who would like nothing better than to have professional baseball. So there's that pull, there's that tug, and what I hate to admit this, but when I got intimately involved in this in the 70s, we were one of the bigger cities in the league. Today, we're probably one of the smallest. The game has changed, and as has budgetary constraints here. We're blessed to have the Riches because they have really committed themselves to this area. But you can't take any of this for granted. And yes, we're mindful of what's going on currently in Morgantown, West Virginia. I don't want to say we're on the bubble, but we're like a few other communities in this league that are have to show that the community will support minor league baseball.
Well, you spoke a very profound sentence there, Greg, and I just want to go back and pull it out and look at it for a moment. When you said the game has changed, and for a moment I felt you were talking about the funding model for the Resource Center and the composition, the face of the NYP League, not to mention baseball itself. I mean, that rang true with me in many different ways when you said the game has changed.
Right. I don't think there's any question. I mean, that which we may have taken for granted, and we're on a nice glide slope in the 80s and 90s, are no longer. Things are moving at warp speed. There are constraints in every direction, and it's a real challenge, but at the same time, privilege for leadership to adapt and adopt in that kind of direction. And that's where the Resource Center, led by Paul Chazan and an incredible staff, are to be duly commended, because they're not resting on their laurels. They're not resting on what occurred last, many, many years of successes. They know they've got to change, and they have done so, and I applaud them.
Greg Peterson, it's always a joy to talk to you, and I appreciate your very deep commitment to all of these things in our community.
Well, thank you, Dennis, and kudos to you and the station for all that you've done in the community.
Greg Peterson, a local attorney, as he spoke to me at Greg Peterson Night at the Ballpark. Greg has a deep commitment, as you heard, to the Resource Center, to baseball in Jamestown, to the Robert H. Jackson Center as well. John Pogorzelski is the Sales and Operations Manager for the Jamestown Jammers. I always like to get you into this show that we do for the Resource Center down here frequently when it's Greg Peterson Night at the Ballpark. John, how you doing?
I'm doing good tonight. Team got a win yesterday, and looking forward to finishing off a homestand here against the Double Days, and hopefully looking for another W tonight.
Well, how does it feel to be the manager of sales and operations at a contender?
It's a great feeling. Whenever a team's winning and fans are checking those standings all year long, it's a lot more excitement, a lot more buzz around the ballpark and the town, and makes it that much more enjoyable at least last couple weeks of August. Looking forward to a playoff push and some games after the regular season.
As we speak here on Monday the 19th, before the game has started, where do you think you're going to finish, or is it bad luck for me to ask that question?
Well, I don't know where everyone would fall and how they feel about that question, but right now we're tied for first. The team's been playing well, and we still got a lot of great pieces on the roster, so I think a playoff spot is definitely a possibility and something that we're looking forward towards.
You have played well enough. There is a wild card in this league, so you've played well enough that even if you don't take the championship because you're neck and neck with State College at the moment, you could still be in.
Yes. We have a little bit of a leeway for the wild card beyond the division, so our first goal is to win the division title, but any way we can get into the playoffs, we'll take it, get hot, and hopefully bring home a championship.
What happened this year to give you this team and this contender status? Luck of the draw, the players who came, the coaches? At this point in the season, do you have some perspective on that?
Well, it is our first year with the Pirates, and no matter what your affiliation is, or each year is just a little different. It's always going to be about the players and the coaches. We've got a coaching staff that's really done a great job putting the guys in a position to succeed, and the Pirates have given us a lot of prospects and a lot of talented players. When the bats have been hot, they're able to pick up the pitching, and when the bats have cooled down a little bit, pitching has been strong, so that we haven't had too many losing streaks. We've been able to really string some wins together and just been able to stay positive and winning more games than we're losing all year long.
Two things and I'll finish. One, are there key players that you could name that have made this possible, or is it really a team effort, again, from your perspective, John?
It is really hard to single out one guy. I mean, we had 7 All-Stars selected. We've had different guys come and go. Anyone from Adam Frazier, one of our middle infielders, Michael Francoso, another middle infielder, our catcher, Jin DeJang, a couple pitchers who've been really hot. You could point at a couple guys at different points, but it's been a team effort led by our coaching staff and put together all season long.
How have the crowds been with this really good team?
Crowds have been excited. They've been really passionate into it. They know there's a lot at stake, especially these last few games. You can tell, even some of the little plays, people are making some noise. And all year long, we've seen a little bit more at the gate than in the past. Some Pirates fans coming and going, and just people watching the standings, keeping an eye on that division race.
Well, John, thanks for your time, and appreciate your welcoming us here on this Greg Peterson Resource Center night here at the ballpark.
Thank you for having me, Dennis.
John Pogrzelski, Sales and Operations Manager for the Jamestown Jammers. That interview was recorded at Greg Peterson Night at the Ballpark this past Monday, the 19th. The Jammers won that game against Auburn 8-7. They won games Tuesday and Wednesday as well, but lost Thursday and Friday. As this program is on the air Saturday morning, they're now 2 games out of first place in their division. State College is 39-23. Jamestown is 37-25. I must say, as we begin the next segment of this special program on Share the Vision today, for Greg Peterson Night at the Ballpark, there could be no more pleasant an interview place anywhere in Jamestown right now, do you think?
Absolutely does. It's a beautiful night for the ball game and a beautiful night for a meeting and getting all the folks out in the Resource Center.
Now, I want to say that you're listening to the voice of Dr. Todd Jacobson, and is it president of the board?
President of the board currently.
Of the Resource Center.
Yes, I am.
The Resource Center board. So this is the main board. You are the main man.
You got it. It's a very large organization. We're about the largest employer in the county, and a very tremendous organization and a great board to be on. I really enjoy it, and I have a personal connection with my daughter living in one of the Resource Center homes.
Her name is?
Maria.
And she threw out the first pitch here last year.
Last year she did, and she had a great time. She made it to the catcher and was really pleased with that. And Greg Peterson had her get the autograph and had a great time that night.
Well, Dr. Jacobson, when you say great night for a meeting, I wanted to get back to that sentence for a moment because it is a beautiful night here, but the challenges the Resource Center faces, and Greg and I were just talking about the changes in funding models that you are attempting to deal with now. I mean, it might be a beautiful night for a meeting, but the meetings have got to be difficult.
The past 2 years have been very difficult financially for the Resource Center. And all the other chapters of NYSARC. Resource Center is only one chapter. Every county has a chapter of NYSARC, and we're one of the largest in Western New York. And a lot of challenges the past 3 years. The funding has been cut as far as getting appeals for overages. There's been no cost of living increase. So it's really tight on the boards to find the money and to find the right financial picture to balance the books and to make the organization thrive.
So as the president at this moment, how are you doing with that challenge? Can you sustain the services that persons with disabilities and their families have come to expect from the Resource Center, Dr. Jacobson? Is any of that tenuous?
Certainly, and but fortunately, this past year, though, we've had a tremendous advocacy a presence reaching out to Albany, and we were able to overturn a proposed 6% cut in our budgets to the Resource Center type of organizations this year. But we still are faced with the previous cuts on top of this. And secondly, you may know Allied Industries, which is part of the Resource Center, which makes materials and outfits for the military, has been also cut because of sequestration. We've always counted on Allied to make up some of the deficits in other areas of the program. So it's been kind of a perfect storm for us to weather here. But things are looking up. We have been able to balance things. The unknown in the future, though, is that everything is coming down to managed care. And where you get a...
What does that really mean? As a doctor, perhaps you can help us understand that even better.
Sure. Well, for services provided, you no longer would get a separate billing for speech therapy or physical therapy or OT. Everything would be a lump payment that goes, and we have to basically divvy that up and make sure the services are provided for that amount. And not having the amount known yet makes everything up in the air right now. But
what's the timetable for resolving that then?
Well, between 2014 2015 is when everything is phasing in. So
you're not on that model right now.
not on that model quite yet, but things are progressing quickly. And I'm on one of the ad hoc committees to try to form a managed care organization for our type of organization in the state. So hopefully things will settle out over the next year, and we'll know what we're dealing with. And but we are trying to reach out to the community, especially next year. We're going to go at a membership campaign, advocacy campaign, reaching out to industries and organizations to help us, even if it's volunteering or helping out, maybe adopting or becoming involved with one of the homes that we have. We need people to help, and maybe even take somebody to the mall or something that would be very simple, but certainly gets them out and into the community.
Just wanted to spend one more minute with you. Game time is coming here, but this is the most specific information I have received to this point about this new engagement, and it sounds very exciting in one sense, in that you are really going to reach out to the community in some new and different ways.
Absolutely. In the past, we've
and
pretty
you
much
need them.
We absolutely need them at this stage, and it really makes sense to involve everybody. This is our children are part of the community, and they deserve support of the community, and hopefully everybody will come and pitch in. But we're just having organization meetings at this stage. We're probably in February going to kick that off, and Paul can perhaps talk a little bit more about that to you.
Well, Dr. Jacobson, thank you very much for your time tonight. We're getting close to the time for the first pitch, so we probably ought to make our way over to the ball field.
Thanks, Dennis.
Dr. Todd Jacobson, president of the board of directors at the Resource Center, as he spoke to me on Greg Peterson night at the ballpark this past Monday. The Paul he made reference to, Paul Chisana. Paul Chisana, executive director of the Resource Center, walks with me now as we head toward the ball field here at Greg Peterson night at the ballpark. It's kind of exciting to be back here at Russell E. Dietrich Jr. Park as the wheel spins and we walk by.
Yeah, it's always part of our annual punctuation here when we have an opportunity to celebrate Greg Peterson's contributions to the years and have fun here at the ballpark with some of our residents and participants being part of the night.
Both Todd and Greg before him were talking about the hard work that the board has to do these days, so it must be kind of a catharsis to be able to get out here and just enjoy a little baseball.
Yes, isn't it? It's like usually it's always in a office, indoor, and this is so nice to be out here. And also what's nice is the fact that, as you know, TSC is really part of the community, and this is a way of just being part of one of the jewels of the community in terms of supporting it and enjoying it.
Well, thank you very much for a few minutes here. It's always great to see you, Paul, particularly at the ballpark.
Well, it's nice to see you always, Dennis, too, and thank you for everything you do for us. Thank you.
Paul Chisana, executive director of the Resource Center, at Greg Peterson night at the ballpark at Russell E. Dietrich Jr. Park this past Monday. I didn't actually get there in time to watch the first pitch, but I was there a moment afterward to speak with John Constantino. Johnny Constantino, who threw that first pitch. His parents, Joe and Rosie, were there as well. I'm going to have you say your name for the audience.
My name is John Constantino.
Now, John, you're pretty famous around here because you're a big fan of baseball.
Yes, I am.
What's your favorite team?
I'm a Yankee fan.
I've known that for a long time. As a matter of fact, I can remember taking calls from you at the radio station, John, when you couldn't find the scores anywhere, but you had to call the station to get them.
That's right. That's right.
So how's your Yankee team doing this year? Should we talk about something else?
Talk about
Well, how about how was it to be out there to throw that first pitch for the Jammers tonight?
It was exciting.
Yeah, have you ever done that before?
No.
You never have.
First time.
Great baseball fan that you are, and you never had a chance to. Well, I presume you threw a strike.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Well, congratulations, and have a great night at the ballpark.
Thank you.
This your dad right over here?
Yeah. My dad, Joe. My mom, Rosie.
Thank you very much. Hello.
Hello.
Dennis Webster, nice to have an opportunity to talk to you.
Okay.
How do you feel about your son being able to throw out that first pitch here?
Very proud that they chose him to do the honor.
This is Resource Center night at the ballpark. Do you have any association with the Resource Center in any way?
Well, other than he goes there, you know.
Oh, what is his role? He didn't tell me that. What is your son's role at the Resource?
He works with the in the shipping department.
At Allied Industry.
And he,
the industry part.
I guess he makes sure that all the boxes are packed properly and got the right labels on them.
So this is real work for your...
Oh, yeah. He's been there for how many years?
32, I think.
33 years.
Yeah.
Your first name again, man?
Josie.
Josie, how do you feel about your son throwing out the pitch here?
Oh, I'm very proud. I think it's wonderful. He's really excited about this.
He ushered down here 19 years.
19 years he ushered.
Really?
Standing right in that corner there. Yeah, he did for many years. And
I get back to your boy here for a second because I got some more questions. But thank you very much, Mom and Dad. 33 years at the Resource Center? I didn't know it had been that long.
Yeah. I started in March of 81.
And has your work changed over that time, John, or not?
Oh, yeah, this lately, the last 6 years, I remember they have to the workshop.
Oh, okay. Do you like what you do, though?
Yeah, I do.
Do you, you like the people you get to work
Oh,
with?
yeah. No, very nice.
Well, thanks again for your time, and this is a very memorable first pitch here tonight.
Thank you.
Steve Watterson is here.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Well, fine, and you know, because I've told you on the air and off how much I enjoy this Greg Peterson night at the ballpark every year.
Well, I understand you've already talked to Greg. I got down here a little late this evening, but I ran into Greg, and he said that he had already spoken with you.
We had a very nice interview about... we talked about the challenges that the Resource Center faces these days and the challenges that are evident to keep baseball in Jamestown these days. So there's some parallel themes we developed in that interview.
Well, I can't wait to hear it on Saturday.
The festivities at the home plate are fundamentally over now. I was a little late for that here.
Well, that's okay. In fact, I was over on the other side looking for you and saw John out on the pitcher's mound and came racing back around so I could make sure I got a picture of him.
And you did. So that'll be in some Resource Center publication soon.
Absolutely.
What else happens here? I know the board of directors has met here and John has thrown out the first pitch. Are there other aspects of Greg Peterson night at the ballpark for the Resource Center that we ought to tell the audience about, Steve?
It's a show of appreciation to our staff and the individuals with disabilities who we support. We make free tickets available to the game for anybody who wants to come, and we always get hundreds of people who are out here taking a good game. This year the Jammers are sitting in first place. We've got a nice night tonight, so it's doubly good reasons to be here for our annual Greg Peterson TRC night at the ballpark.
Are you a baseball fan?
I am a baseball fan.
What is your team?
My team is the Mets. So the only good thing I can say is that the Mets are in third place in their division rather than last. So they've moved ahead of the Phillies, so I'm happy about that.
You know, you said Mets, and John, who's still standing with us here, turned his head and gave us an expression that would be difficult to describe.
I freely will admit that Yankees are the team of New York City, and it would not anything the Mets can do anything about anytime soon.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. Good to see you tonight.
You too, Dennis. Thanks for coming down.
I regret to report that because I was busy talking on the other side of the stadium, I missed John's first pitch here, but I believe Vicky Bardot was pretty exciting.
Yes, it was really, really exciting. You know, Johnny is a longtime friend of the Resource Center, and he actually used to work here. So when it came to figuring out who was going to throw out the first pitch tonight, it was a no-brainer, and we said, Johnny Constantino's our man, and by golly, he did us proud.
And he's a huge baseball fan.
Oh, yeah, he's a big Yankee fan. He's a great baseball fan, and like I said, you know, working here for 12 or 13 years, I almost forgot about that, but I do remember seeing him, up and down the grandstands and seating people, and it was really exciting to see Johnny out there on the field on the other end of things.
Well, Vicki, thank you for your time here and your effort in putting us all together tonight here, and thanks to everybody for sharing the vision today.